Look, I love Nissan, but right now it feels like they're on the path to going out of business. How did we go from the S13 to the Versa, from the R34 to the Murano convertible? In this video, we're gonna take a look at what Nissan did right in their past and what they're doing wrong now, and then I'm gonna take a look at some ways they could turn things around. So come with me if you wanna survive. Problem number one, all we care about are old Nissans. Nissan had some of the sickest, most iconic cars ever made, but over the last 20 years, they've really dropped the ball. The quality of their cars has gone downhill and they've lost their core audience. And it shows in their numbers. In the beginning of 2019, they lost 99% of their operating profit and had to lay off nearly 13,000 employees. Which makes me wonder, how does a company that made so many of the cars that we all wanted and love fail so hard? We're gonna get into that, but first, let's look at why we love their cars so much. Nissan, or as they used to be called, Datsun, has been around for over 100 years, but most of the coolest cars they made were from the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. The Z line really put Nissan on the map in the US, starting off with the 240Z in 1969. This family of affordable sports cars made it possible for every Joe Schmo to drive a fun, stylish car that could rip. Then there was, of course, the Skyline, which is arguably one of the most influential cars of the last 50 years. As American cars got worse in the 70s and 80s, both the Skyline and the Z cars continued to get better, building a core fan base with cars that really stood out. By the 1990s, Nissan was at the top of their game. With new models like the twin-turbo 300ZX, even the 240SX, they gained a whole new generation of enthusiasts. Even their entry-level models had high-performance versions, like the Sentra SER. They made great cars that drove well, they were reliable, and felt planted on the road. Nissan spent a lot of money making their cars great. The yen was so strong that they could afford to. But before long, Nissan was struggling to make a profit. Actually, for most of the 90s, they didn't even make a profit at all. When you're not making a profit, it's hard to innovate. That's business 101. So while their competitors were releasing new models every couple of years, Nissan almost went a decade without a major update to their models, which sounds familiar. From a car enthusiast standpoint, we look back at the Nissans from the 90s as some of the most fun driver's cars out there, but little did we know that they were on the verge of bankruptcy. They were actually losing $1,000 for every car they sold in the US. I never took any business courses, but that's not good. By 1999, things were looking even bleaker for Nissan. They entered into an alliance with French car manufacturer Renault, who offered to take on $5.4 billion of Nissan's debt in exchange for a 36% stake in the company. On the other hand, Nissan would import and sell Renaults in Japan. It was a solution that benefited both companies. To spearhead the new initiative that would bring Nissan out of the red, Renault brought in the notorious Carlos Ghosn as CEO, who is in jail right now. More on that later. So, what are the 7 ways that Nissan is failing? Well, let's get into it. Cutting too many corners. The first major change Carlos Ghosn enacted as CEO was to cut production costs. Nissan was spending 15 to 25% more on parts than their competitors, so they started to install cheaper parts, which makes sense from a business perspective, but then we get things like timing belt guides made out of plastic. Guides and tensioners that kept the timing belt in place on 6 different Nissan models made from 2004 to 2010 were made out of plastic that degraded really quickly, which meant timing belts on those cars had to be replaced early on in that car's life. Nissan actually lost a class action lawsuit over it, and they were forced to address the problem. One of the more well-known foibles that afflicted Nissan cars was their CVT. Nissan's continuously variable transmissions were some of the worst made transmissions in recent history. They commonly failed around 60,000 miles, which is conveniently right when their warranty ran out. Luckily for owners, Nissan was sued yet again and was forced to recall the cars that had the CVT. They also extended the warranty from 60,000 miles to 100,000, so good for them. Even with a new round of updates in 2012, they weren't quite able to improve quality or driver satisfaction. In a consumer report study done in 2014, 14 of the 22 Nissans and Infinitis ranked last or second to last in their respective categories. Some testers said the cars felt cheaper, less refined, and even less enjoyable than before. That's not progress. If there's one good thing to be said about Carlos Ghosn, it's that he did get Nissan out of the hole. Without his contributions, we might not have the brand around today. If he didn't cut costs and jobs and lower the overhead, they wouldn't have been able to design new cars. This is when Nissan started developing more entry-level volume cars like the Versa. You know, everyone's most hated rental car. I sat in one and it somehow felt older than an old Sentra. It was weird. To their credit though, these volume cars are the biggest reason Nissan was able to turn things around. But in the process, they kind of lost the company's soul. Cars like the crossover Murano and the new generations of the Altima and Maxima were decent, but the market quickly became saturated. It seemed like every other car on the road was a freaking Altima. This early 2000s gen was the most powerful yet, but mechanical issues plagued the cars, usually right after the warranty ran out. Floorboards rusted through, they ate up oil, and catalytic converters were known to fail. These cars wouldn't have been volume cars though if people didn't buy them. To ensure that that happened, Nissan sold to anyone, despite if they could afford it or not. This was possible because of a little thing called subprime loans. If you're not familiar with these kinds of loans, they're basically what led to the recession of 2008.
What in the world is happening on Wall Street?
They're aimed at people with bad credit and have insanely high interest rates, like 25%. One guy in Indiana financed a $21,000 used truck with a subprime loan. But by the time he would have owned it, it would have cost him over $44,000. Good thing he couldn't make that $750 monthly payment and ended up having to go bankrupt. There are thousands of stories like this, and Nissan's not the only one causing this issue. Maybe the biggest reason Nissan is blowing it is because they're in the same situation that they were in the late 90s. Their most fun, most enthusiast-based models haven't been updated frequently enough. The 350Z was in production for 7 years. The 370Z has gone 10 years with almost no updates. I mean, the 370 was basically just an upgraded 350 to start off with. Even Nissan's flagship model, the GT-R, has been around for 12 years with only a handful of performance upgrades. Most changes they make are based on comfort and style. You can't do that and expect fans to stick by your side. We get bored. We're just cats, man. I'll play with that toy for like 5 minutes and then never touch it again. Then there's the whole Carlos Ghosn fiasco. The man who turned the company around turned out to be siphoning money from said company. He got busted last year. We actually made a whole video on it if you want to learn more. The whole Carlos Ghosn thing kind of soured the public's perception of Nissan, and they have yet to bounce back. In the spring of 2019, Nissan lost 95% of net income and 99% of their operating profit. Their revenue dropped 13%, and the company was forced to lay off 12,500 employees. Nissan is basically in the same exact position they were in before Carlos Ghosn took over. So, how should they turn things around this time? I think the most pressing issue is that Nissan needs to make their cars more reliable, starting with the quality of their parts. There's a reason that 30-year-old S13s are still the preferred car for drifting. They're solid as hell, especially the chassis. You can strip them down and they still maintain structural rigidity. Can you imagine people in 30 years drifting clapped out Murano cabriolets? Not gonna happen. But let's take a look at what happened with the KDM cars. Kia and Hyundai had some of the worst reputations in the late 90s and early 2000s. But they turned things around, and nowadays they're affordable, reliable, and some of the best-selling cars in America. The quality is great, and some of them look cool as hell. The Veloster N is a certified ripper, and Hyundai even has a luxury brand now, the Genesis. The Kia Stinger is amazing. I love that car. Good work, KDM. Nissan, you should copy their homework. I know the type of person who drives a GT-R, but I don't know who drives Nissans. I don't think Nissan knows who drives Nissans. They need to find their audience and then cater to them. Maybe they should take a page out of Dodge's book. They debuted the Hellcat, maybe the most ridiculous production car ever made, and instantly that cemented their identity. This is a consistent message across all their cars and marketing, and we like them better for it. They paid James to get a Dodge tattoo.
Ow! Ow! Ow!
Third, and most importantly in my mind, take a page out of your own book and bring back some fan favorites, Nissan. How sick would it be if Nissan made a new Silvia? It would be great competition for the GT86. Overall, I think they need to be more competitive with their cars. You hop into a new Corolla and it's pretty nice. You hop into a new Sentra and you're like, how does this interior feel older than the old Sentra? It doesn't make sense. This just might be the car nerd in me, but I think it's vital that Nissan focus their efforts on updating the Z and the GT-R. Both of those cars are sick and still relevant in the bigger picture, but it's been more than a decade, Nissan. That's unacceptable. Think about how sick a new Z model would be to usher in this new decade. And maybe a new GT-R, the R36 perhaps? I think most of all, we just want to see Nissan make some fun cars again. When the GT-R came out, it was awesome. It is still an awesome car, but Nissan needs to follow it up with something else soon before our excitement and their bank account runs out. Hey, so this is the first new episode of 2020. Let's resolve to be more kind to each other. Nissan, I love you. I want to see you guys succeed, man. Be kind. See you next time. New catchphrase for 2020, baby. Being nice is not the same as being kind. Being nice, people be nice to your face. Don't be nice, be kind. See you next time.